The show, the guests, and the charts. The fun and laughter. The chat show with a difference. She'll talk with you.
I come from Scotland. I was born in Glasgow, where I went to school initially. I went to Glasgow Academy in Glasgow, and from there I went to university in England at Oxford. And that was basically my upbringing in the UK. From there I went into the oil business. I joined Shell International after university, and worked internationally with Shell for 30 odd years after leaving university.
What did you actually study?
I studied engineering science at university, and one of the reasons I chose that particular course was because it was a general engineering course. I didn't really know when I left school what branch of engineering I would want to enter into, be it civil or electrical or mechanical or whatever. And so that particular course gave the opportunity to cover all the fields. And then to my surprise, of course, I ended up in petroleum engineering, which we didn't cover at all. So when I joined Shell International, we went through another form of training in particularly the petroleum engineering and operations engineering and drilling engineering areas for the oil sector. So that was how I got there, and as I say, thereafter I was working internationally for about 30 years with Shell. My first 20 years were spent in the Far East, in Brunei, then I was in Holland, and towards the end of the 80s I was posted to the Philippines, where we set up a deep water operation there for some exploration drilling. I should say that in the period up to then I had specialised a little bit in deep water drilling and production operations. And that in the Philippines, that was a particular operation that we started from scratch. I then was moved to Syria, where I was a drilling manager in Syria. It was a completely different environment, a little bit out of my depth, you might say, in the desert instead of in the water. But it was because of my deep water experience before that I was asked to come to Nigeria.
Who asked you to come to Nigeria? Why Nigeria?
Well, the head office asked me to come. In fact, they insisted I should come amongst a group.
Is that Shell?
Shell, yes, still
Okay.
the Shell, yes. And they were setting up a new operation here in Nigeria in the deep water. It was an exploration venture. And the head office considered it a very important operation with a lot of potential for the future. And so they insisted that the team that was set up to run that operation initially had to have had experience of such things before. So I was the operations manager. We had our exploration manager and one or two others. We had a team of about 5 senior people heading that particular venture. That was back in 1994, and that's when I first came to Nigeria.
Wow. Was Nigeria kind of different from the other countries that you had been to?
I don't think anyone works internationally if they haven't got some desire to visit other countries and experience other cultures and travel the world and see part of the world. And certainly my choice in choosing initially to join Shell International after university was very much predicated on a desire to travel and work overseas. So I've been fortunate in that in my working life I've been able to see a number of countries in the world and experience people firsthand, work with people, and share things that you don't normally get to see on holiday, for example, if you visit such countries. So to answer the question about coming to Nigeria, it was not unexpected to me what I was coming to, because we hear about it. We've had an operation here for a long time. Many of my friends have been here before. But what is quite distinctive about Nigeria is that you're certainly in a foreign country. There's no question about that. It's not as if one travels to America or Europe, and there's a lot of similarities in the place. Here when you arrive, you're in a different climate. It's hot, it's humid, and it's noisy, and it's dirty, and everything's happening all around. It's a bit chaotic and so forth, but it has a charm. And particularly Lagos has a charm of its own, I have to say.
Oh, that's nice.
The only place I experienced anything a little bit like it was probably Manila, which is also a little bit of a busy metropolis with a lot of people.
I want to talk about the projects, just briefly. What kind of projects you explored in Nigeria?
Well, as I say, when I came here, I was here to set up the deep water operation, and that was an exploration venture. I was responsible for setting up the operation associated with that, which meant the drilling operation, getting the drilling rig organised, getting out there, drilling the exploration well, which the exploration people had done their studies on. So, and we were in deep water. We were in 1,000 metres of water, and we were 100 kilometres off the coast. So we're not in the normal province that people are accustomed to working in Nigeria, which is the Delta swamp and coastal area. We are way far out. So logistics and communications and organisation and planning and cost control are extremely important when you run such an operation. But as I say, the head office was very, very bullish about the prospects for deep water exploration and deep water discoveries. And I have to say, we drilled our first exploration well. It was an operational success, and it was also an exploration success.
I must say, I'm a bit lost here now because I know nothing. Yeah, it's really technical. So, in a way, in a layman's word, what does that really involve?
Well, what it means is actually oil is found in underground layers deep below the surface. It can be 2-3 kilometres down, so you can't see anything. But we do surveys, what we call seismic surveys, which can map out structures under the seabed and under the landforms, and you can see where pools of oil may accumulate. And if there's one thing that our shell explorationists always said here was that their experience in the Gulf of Mexico and their knowledge of the sedimentary basin of the Gulf of Mexico, they considered to be very similar to the Gulf of Guinea.
Right.
And so we'd been very successful in the past in the Gulf of in the Gulf of Mexico, and hence there was an expectation that we could be very fortunate here and find something big, and that's exactly what we did.
That brings me to this. I must say I can't actually say I've gotten the fact right, but there is kind of some sort of rumor flying around, and I must say I was opportune as well to hear some of your colleagues talking about your contribution. Is it about financially to the Nigerian oil market, your oil discovery in Nigeria? What's that all about?
I think what you're referring to is the fact that discovery well, Bonga 1, that was the name of the discovery well, led to the development of what we call the Bonga field.
So, sorry, I just got you short there. Does it mean that every well you discover has a title?
Oh yes, yes, and those titles are actually agreed and approved by the Department of Petroleum Resources. Bonga is actually, in the meaning in Nigeria, in that area, next to the coastal area, it means a small fish. Bonga is a type of small fish in that area, in the local dialect. That's what Bonga stands for.
Is that in the Delta region?
Yeah, it's in that area just off Warri, down that sort of area where we were directly offshore from. So Bonga was chosen. To me, it always seemed a strange name when we were looking for huge fields with this little fish, but there we are. So indeed, the exploration well led to further drilling to appraise the size of the accumulation, which then leads to what we call field development studies, and then leads to the development and installation of infrastructure to be able to drill production wells, produce production wells, and then export the oil to market. And I think what you're referring to in terms of the contribution of that field, Bonga even today, and has been now for the best part of 10 or 12 years, I think, been producing at or above 200,000 barrels a day of production. And in a country where, let's say the average is around 2 million barrels a day, that field on its own contributes about 10% of daily production to
So I do not only have Chief Norman here, I've got a big fish. A bonga, a small, but a fish, and so it's a big fish.
The Chat Show with a Difference.